Hey there, welcome back. We're going to continue our tour of the New World Wonders. Last week we looked at the Mayan city of Chichen Itza. This time we're heading into the Pacific Ocean to look at some stone carvings that might have helped contribute to a population collapse. Easter Island, otherwise known as Rapa Nui, is home to one of the most fascinating things our world has to offer to us. The island is home to giant statues called moai. They were erected by the original inhabitants, the Rapa Nui. Rapa Nui is located in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Chile by 3,540 kilometers and is the easternmost island of the Polynesian Islands. The island is shaped like a triangle more or less, and is only 23 kilometers in length and 11 kilometers wide. Before we can talk about the stone heads that cover the island, we first need to cover the history of the island. The first Europeans to stumble across the island were the Dutch. The Dutch admiral Jacob Roggeveen came across the island in 1722 on Easter Sunday of all days, which funny enough is how it got its name. He wrote that he found a population of mixed physical types that worshipped large statues. And this is where we get the first mention of how the native peoples wore their earlobes. He said that some had slits in their earlobes that hung to their shoulders, and this is still represented in the current population living on Rapa Nui today. After the Dutch left the island, the island wouldn't be explored anymore until 1770 by the Spanish Viceroy of Peru, and the Spanish were the first to report that Rapa Nui had a pictorial script that to this day is yet to be deciphered called Rongo Rongo. They also reported that there was around 3,000 people living on the island. This time it would be only 4 years before Europeans set foot on the island again, this time by the British captain James Cook. And Cook reported that the island's population was down to around 600 to 700 men and no less than 30 women. He also noted that the large statues were no longer being worshipped. Over the next 91 years, the island would be visited time and time again, and the population on the island would rise and fall with each visit. When the French landed on the island in 1786, they said the population was around 2,000 people, and by 1860, the population was said to be back towards the 3,000 mark. But in 1862, Peru launched slave raids onto the island. This, accompanied with smallpox, would bring the population crashing down, so that by 1877, the population was only around 111 people. Over the next 150 years or so, people would continue to visit the island, but they never offered us any insight into the giant stone carvings or the people that created them. So starting in 1886, archaeologists started to do archaeological surveys on the island, and this is exactly what it sounds like. We walked across the island and documented anything that had to do with archaeology on the island. Then by 1955, we decided we had enough of walking around and marking things on a map, and the first archaeological excavations began. And what did we find from the archaeological excavations? Well, we found the island could be broken down into 3 time periods, creatively enough named the early period, the middle period, and the late period. Altogether, they discovered 887 moai on the island. The early period has been carbon dated to 700 to 850 CE, and during this time period is when we first start to see the construction of ahus. The middle period dates from around 1050 to 1680 CE. During this time period, they destroyed the ahus that had already been constructed. They then rebuilt them with no attention being paid to solar orientation. It seems like they were trying to make them as large and grand as possible to support the moai that the island is known for today. The moai statues that were constructed during the middle period ranged anywhere from 3 to 6 meters in height, but one of the tallest that is no longer standing had a height of 10 meters and weighed 74,500 kilos, and would have had a top knot sitting on its head that weighed another 10,000 kilos on top of that. The tallest one on the island that remains unfinished, still laying on its back, would have been 21 meters in height if they ever got it standing. As I mentioned before, there's 887 moai that have been discovered on the island, with only 288 of them having been transported to their final destination, and 397 of them are still lying in the quarry, and the last 92 are left lying in transport on their way to their final destination. We're not exactly certain how they moved them. There's a few theories. They either stood them up and rocked them to their final destination, or they dragged them there. However, the oral tradition on the island says that they were moved using either mana or divine power. We're not exactly sure who or what the statues were meant to represent, but archaeologist Joanne van Tilburg suggests that they might have been carved in the likeness of various chiefs. She also suggests that the moai are a ceremonial connection between the Rapa Nui and their gods. The late period takes place anytime after 1680 and is characterized by large-scale warfare on the island. During this time, they created obsidian points en masse, and we no longer see the moai being constructed. Instead, we start to see a large-scale destruction of them. This brings us to how the production of the moai led to civil wars and a collapse of the population. Or did it? There are 2 theories that have been put forth. The first by Jared Diamond in his book called Collapse. He argues that they brought along their own population decline. As their population started to grow, they started to take and do unsustainable farming practices. They then had to clean out more and more trees to support their farmlands and themselves, and this led to resources lacking, causing civil war and cannibalism. The second theory has been put forth in recent years by anthropologist Terry Hunt and archaeologist Carl Lippo. They both have studied and worked on the island for years. They suggest that the Rapa Nui didn't destroy themselves. Instead, they actually thrived during the late period up until European contact. They took radiocarbon dates that were taken previously on the island and entered them into the Bayesian analysis. The Bayesian analysis is a probability probability model. It takes data in and produces a more probable timeline of events. They suggest that contact with Europeans and colonization by them is what actually led to the population decrease. They suggest that the Europeans brought with them new diseases, and this isn't too hard to believe. All you have to do is look at the European colonization of the Americas. But along with disease, they also brought murder and slave trade. All of this equaled out to the population on the island falling to dangerous levels. This new theory has been challenged by archaeologists recently, saying that the location of the radiocarbon dates on the island can't be confirmed. But the authors of the new theory say that Jared Diamond's theory has some merit, but it doesn't show the whole picture. The theory of European colonization isn't that far-fetched if you ask me. I mean, it's the only reason that I live on the side of the world that I do today. The descendants of the Rapa Nui still live on the island to this day, and maybe one day they'll be able to unlock the writing to help us understand why their ancestors made the Moai. I want to thank you all for watching. If you want to support the channel and help the channel grow, then consider heading over to Patreon and becoming part of the crew.